All right, so just to reiterate, this is part 2 of a talk that I started last week on 12/22/2012 on a historic date in time when the Mayan calendar predicted a certain event was going to occur, which was in my other talk, which is on YouTube. For those of you watching, and you might not need to start with that, that one is called The Mayan Calendar and the Photon Belt, and there's parts 1 through 5. And basically the way that ended was that we have now entered the photon belt. At that time, December 21st, December 22nd, December 23rd were the 72 hours where we were in the null zone, the zone just prior to the photon belt. This is just, I'm just not used to having a camera pointing at me, you know. But anyway, so today's talk is, now that we're in the photon belt, what happens next? And what I want to start off with is showing you a picture to give you an idea of our universe. Okay, now this picture is actually, has anyone ever seen this picture before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is it?
Galaxies.
Right.
Exposure of a long, many days exposure, so you can see multiple galaxies.
Right, this is hundreds of galaxies, and each galaxy has millions of suns in each one of these white spots, and we are just one tiny sun in one of these galaxies. So this is just a snapshot of part of the universe, to give you an idea of. Have you seen this picture?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I just happened to come across this today. All right, so today's talk is going to get into a lot of science, and the only way I can describe this to you is by saying that my son has told me there's nothing I'm about to say that is higher than an 8th grade science level. So it is going to be very detailed, but just pretend you're taking a science class, and that's the length of this talk. And some of you might already know a lot of this, but it has to do with what's occurring, and I have to talk about it in a scientific way. So, and there's five subjects I'm going to cover today. One is, how is the Earth's magnetic field being affected by the photon belt, and how is that affecting us? I'm going to talk about the electric current on our planet, and how did that get affected by the photon belt, and how is that affecting us? And I'm going to talk about the pineal gland, and what role does that have in all of this, and how did that get affected, and how is that affecting us? And also, what do the crop circles have to do with any of this, and Stonehenge and stone structures such as those, and how do they fit into all this? In other words, the last talk covered the history of the universe in relation to planet Earth, and went into a lot of detail. This talk is going to get into all these things that you've heard about, and how does this all affect them, and where do they come from, what do they have anything to do with this. So, without any further ado, let me begin. So the inside of the Earth is fire. And 8th graders know this. This is kind of like that show, what's that show about the 5th grader? Are you smarter than a 5th grader? Okay, this is, are you smarter than an 8th grader? That's what today is. The inside of the Earth is fire, which is molten liquid iron. And that's the key thing here, that it's iron. The inside of the Earth is iron, surrounding a solid inner core of iron. This is what moves and generates the magnetic field. It's solid because at that depth, the high pressure overcomes the effect of high temperature, when the liquid rock would have been liquid. Because it's so much pressure, it's actually solid inside. Magma is liquid iron. And again, I'm stressing this iron point because I'm going to hit that pretty hard with why is this magnetic. What we do know about the core is that, as I said, there is a solid inner core of pure iron, and this is the size of the moon. Surrounding that inner core of solid iron is an outer liquid core rich in iron, also the size of Mars. And there's an irregular boundary between the liquid core and the bottom of the rocky mantle, which is towards the upper crust of the Earth now. Inside the Earth. This comes mostly from studying how seismic waves travel through the Earth. That's how they came to these conclusions. Most scientists agree, and this is going to get very scientific, but I'm just going to try to just go through it with you. Most scientists agree that Earth's magnetic field arises from convection currents in the liquid outer core, which is a good conductor of electricity. These currents constitute an amplifying, self-sustaining geodynamo. The average magnetic field in the Earth's outer core was calculated to be 50 times stronger than the field at the surface. So the inner core is 50 times stronger than the field at the surface. The radius of the outer core is about half of the radius of the Earth. And again, that outer core is the liquid part. If the core inside the Earth started to cool, that would also cause a loss of motion. Hi, come on in, just have a seat or get yourself some refreshments. We just started.
Hi, oh good. Oh, hi.
The planet Mercury also has a large iron core and a magnetic field, though much weaker than the Earth's. Over geologic time, the inner core grows as the Earth cools, because as the lava, the liquid magma inside the Earth cools, that increases the solid part of the inner core of the Earth. Does anyone here know about magnets? Okay, are you familiar with some of this so far? Okay. So iron crystals freeze out at the top of the outer core and rain on into the inner solid core. And at the base of the outer core, the iron freezes under pressure, taking much of nickel is also part of it with it. The remaining liquid iron is lighter and that rises. These rising and falling motions interacting with geomagnetic forces stir the whole outer core at a speed of 20 kilometers a year or so. And Mars, by the way, is a planet that is made of frozen lava. Mars is, yeah, we're recording this for YouTube. Mars is frozen lava. That planet is a red planet. And what does anyone know why that's red? And I'm only asking certain things just to see, yes.
Hematite.
Okay, yes, because it's hematite, which is part of iron. See, so the planet Mars is red, which is the same thing as the red dirt in Sedona, is hematite. It's iron oxide, making that red color. Okay, Mars, as I said, is frozen lava, and again, realize that as the Earth's center cools, it turns into solid and stops that motion. Mars has lost its magnetic field. Has anyone heard that Mars was kind of like Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, Mars used to be Earth. They actually say that the men on Earth are like the men on Mars used to be. Violent, warring, destructive. So our planet actually is following a similar path as Mars, and Mars is now frozen lava and has lost its magnetic field. Out in space there is no magnetic iron, yet magnetism is widespread. For instance, sunspots consist of glowing hot gas, yet they are intensely magnetic. The Earth's own magnetic powers arise deep in its interior, and temperatures there are too high for iron magnets, which lose all their power when heated to a red glow. So what goes on in those magnetized regions out in space where there is no magnetic iron? It is all related to electricity. Matter consists of electrically charged particles. Each atom consists of light negative of light, which is empty space, light. Negative electrons swarming around a positive nucleus. This is what matter is, and that's what physics has proved, that there's no such thing as solid matter. Everything is just electrons, protons, and empty space. Okay, so I'm just giving you the background of why the Earth is possibly able to generate a magnetic force field at all. Close to 1800, it was found that when the ends of a chemical battery were connected by a metal wire, a steady stream of electric charges flowed in that wire and heated it. This was just discovered in 1800. That flow became known as an electric current. In a simplified view, what happens is that electrons hop from atom to atom in the metal. In 1821, Hans Christian Ørsted in Denmark found unexpectedly in 1821 that such an electric current caused a compass needle to move. This is pretty much new stuff, in other words. As long as we've been on Earth, they've just been discovering this in our generation, because I'm sure other generations 10,000 years ago knew this, but in our 10,000 year generation. An electric current produced a magnetic force. This was news to them. Somebody named André Marie Ampère in France soon unraveled this meaning. The fundamental nature of magnetism was not associated with magnetic poles or iron magnets, but with electric currents. The magnetic force was basically a force between electric currents. Okay, so the magnetic property becomes even stronger, though, if you do put a core of iron placed inside coils in the center, which creates an electromagnet. That requires iron, but it is not essential. You can have cores that don't have iron, but when iron is added, it increases that magnetic field thousands upon thousands fold when iron is added. In space, on the sun, and in the Earth's core, electric currents are the only source of magnetism. An electromagnet is a type of magnet in which the magnetic field is produced by the flow of electric current. The magnetic field disappears when that current is turned off in that case. Okay, and I want you guys to kind of be using your thinking caps, okay, because this is actually a puzzle that a lot of scientists don't even know. They don't know, why does the Earth's poles switch? They don't know, why does the magnetic field slow down or decrease or increase. So I'm giving you all the facts for this puzzle. And at the end, which this is only one little short section, but at the end I want to see how you put this together and see if you come to the same ways that I put this together. Okay, so I'm telling you that a magnet is stronger when it has iron at its center. And in space there is no iron, and yet there is, the sun is extremely intensely magnetic. And the strength of a magnetic field generated is proportional to the amount of current being applied to it. And again, when you shut that current off, the magnetism is gone. So if you stop in an electromagnet, because the photon belt, see, is electromagnetic light energy. And they were wondering, how is this going to affect us? Everybody thought we're going to lose power, there's going to be blackouts, your cell phone's not going to work, your electricity's not going to work, and yet we're in it. And everyone's saying, oh, well, then nothing happened. But I'm going to give you some facts about what did happen, that we're not looking in the right places. So, an electric current flowing in a wire creates a magnetic field around the wire. And we just have to get into this basic stuff, because I really had to get down to, these kind of facts. Much stronger magnetic fields can be produced if a core of ferromagnetic material, such as soft iron, is placed inside the coil. Because again, the Earth itself, like we take it for granted that it's this living organism, but really it operates like a conductor, and an electromagnetic conductor, and things are happening on that level. So I want you to, I'm breaking it down into this basic thing, but really the Earth, it has this iron core, and this is what's happening. And we have a magnetic field that's being produced. And they just discovered there was iron in the center. So this is all kind of brand new, but you're taking it for granted because you've already had 8th grade science. But this is just a refresher for you. So, as I said, the ferromagnetic core, if you put iron in there, increases the magnetic field to thousands of times the strength of the field of the coil alone, due to the high magnetic permeability of the ferromagnetic material. The main advantage of an electromagnetic over a permanent magnet, where if you stop a current with an electromagnetic, you shut the magnet off. With a permanent magnet, where that doesn't happen, is that the magnetic field can be rapidly manipulated over a wide range by controlling the amount of electric current. This is the advantage of an electromagnet over a permanent magnet. However, a continuous supply of electrical energy is required to maintain that field. So in other words, we're getting into why does the Earth spin? How is it generating this? And okay, so this is, and it's saying that in an electromagnetic you need a current to keep it going. And if that current stops, the magnet stops. So if there's an iron core in an electromagnet, and you don't have any current going. All those iron core domains, they call them, point in all random directions. They don't all line up without a current, they're just randomly all over the place. And they do have tiny magnetic fields, but they each cancel each other out in that situation, so it's not really anything that's no large scale. But when you pass a current through the wire wrapped around the iron, then its magnetic field penetrates the iron and causes all the domains to turn, aligning parallel to the magnetic field. So their tiny magnetic fields add together to the wire's field, and it creates a large magnetic field that extends into space around the magnet. And again, when it's iron that is in there, because this can happen with just air around a coil, but when it's iron, it increases it thousands of times the strength of the field of the coil alone. So without that current though, the iron just fragments and it's just little tiny fields that don't add up to anything. When you put the current, they zoom in right away. And when the current is turned off, they return back to their random state. This phenomenon has a name. It's called hysteresis. And the remaining magnetic field is called remnant magnetism, what's left when you turn the current off. There was a Danish scientist, his name was Hans Christian Ørsted. He discovered in 1820 that electric currents create magnetic fields. And he invented the electromagnetic magnet in 1824. All right, so I've already really hammered that. But I had this from many different sources, and I kind of pieced this together and added it up. So when we learn about these things, it raises new questions to our scientists today. These are questions they don't have answers for. The liquid iron must be the source of Earth's geomagnetic field, called the geodynamo. But how does it work? Why does the geodynamo flip, switching magnetic north and south over geologic time? What happens at the top of the core where molten metal meets the rocky mantle? Answers began to emerge during the 1990s. After all this time, they just discovered this information about magnets in 1820. They just started getting answers in the 1990s. And they still don't have them all. In 1996, two people named Xiadong Song and Paul Richards confirmed a prediction that the inner core rotates slightly faster than the rest of the Earth. The magnetic forces of the geodynamo seem to be responsible. Core studies surged in 1996 when they put this to computer models to find out, and they reproduced the behavior of the geodynamo, including spontaneous reversals. Hollywood actually made a movie out of this called The Core. In the movie, the collapse of the Earth's magnetic field is inexplicably signaled by failing cardiac pacemakers. Okay, these are the things they predicted would happen with the electromagnetism of the photon belt, that pacemakers would stop working, people would have heart attacks, not even with a pacemaker, just because our hearts are electrical. Same thing as if you were struck by lightning type thing. And a space shuttle thrown off course, perhaps because it was steering by a magnetic compass. This is in the movie, The Core. The wandering of the northern lights went to lower latitudes. Without a magnetic field, there would be no northern lights at all, because what those are solar flares that are attracted to the magnetic field of the Earth. They show up only where the magnetic field of the Earth is. And if you were following the news last year, you might have heard that the northern lights were appearing in Texas. Did anyone hear that?
Yeah.
They were coming down as far south as Texas. They only appear where the magnetic field is. So this is telling you the magnetic field is moving south. So in the movie, they had the Earth's magnetic field collapse, and in the movie, it was because the Earth's core had stopped spinning. So did anyone see this movie? I believe they tunneled down into the center of the Earth to try to get the inner core spinning again. Okay, so for at least the last 160 million years, as known from evidence preserved in the geological record, Earth's magnetic field has often reversed polarity. In the last 160 million years, they see this evidence. which is tiny magnetic domains that are in layered basalts on land, which is lava, rock that comes from lava, and on spreading ocean floors frozen in different orientations, in different layers. They can tell, that's how they can tell where the polarity of the Earth has been in the past. But the core spin of the Earth is not implicated in this evidence. The solid inner core turns only once every 120 years or so, relative to the rest of the planet. That's how often the inner core actually reverses its polarity, is like once, or turns only once every 120 years. No one knows the real reason for field reversals. And most magnets are made of iron. In fact, we have iron in our blood, in our red blood cells, which is tiny. It has a tiny charge. It is slightly magnetic. That's why you see the magnetic therapies people are trying to work with to increase blood circulation by putting those on, attracting to the iron in our blood to move the blood. So, in what ways are electricity and magnetism alike? Does anyone know? What?
Both can be conducted.
Conducted?
Yes.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning they can be conducted by an element or mineral.
Okay.
Like a current can be passed, or a current can be made of that type of energy.
Either magnetic or electrical?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so both electricity and magnetism both produce a force that can pull or push things without touching them. We all know magnets can do that. Electricity can also do that. They both have opposite states. Electricity has positive and negative, and magnetism has north and south. And in both, opposite states attract and the same states repel. That's what's common in electricity and magnetism. The Earth's magnetic field is mostly caused by electric currents in the liquid outer core, which is composed of highly conductive, as you said, molten iron. A magnetic field is generated by a feedback loop. The current loops generate magnetic fields. A changing magnetic field generates an electric field, and the electric and magnetic fields exert a force on the charges that are flowing in currents. Magnetism can produce electricity, in other words, only if it is accompanied by motion. It has to have motion for magnetism to produce electricity. And I know I'm just like really hitting this part hard, but it's almost over, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. So the mere convective motion of an electrically conductive fluid is not enough to ensure the generation of a magnetic field, however. The above model assumes the motion of charges, such as electrons, with respect to atomic nuclei, which is a requirement for generating a magnetic field. However, it is not clear how this motion of charges arises in the circulating fluid of the outer core. Possible mechanisms may include electrochemical reactions, which create the equivalent of a battery generating electrical current in the fluid, or a thermoelectric effect. However, unlike the field of a bar magnet, Earth's field changes over time because it is generated by the motion of molten iron alloys in the Earth's outer core. The key is that the Earth is constantly spinning, so the liquid iron is constantly moving as the conductor and generating electricity. And once you have currents, those give rise to more magnetic fields, which cause more currents and cause the magnetic field to rise. At random intervals, averaging several 100,000 years, the Earth's field reverses, which means the north and the south switch positions. These reversals leave a record in rocks that allow paleomagnetists to calculate past motions of continents and ocean floors as a result of plate tectonics. And it's recorded in sedimentary rocks. Changes over timescales of a year or more mostly reflect changes in the Earth's interior, particularly the iron-rich core. So they're still saying it's all based on that interior iron core. And these events, which are believed to last a few hundred to a few thousand years, where the Earth's north and south pole are interchanged, often involve an extended decline in field strength when they're about to occur, followed by a rapid recovery after the new orientation has been established. They say that it only takes 24 hours, in other words, for a north pole to switch, and where the south is where your compass would be pointing to from now on, instead of the north pole. Your compass, would point to magnetic south, is what it would, that's what a pole switch is. And again, evidence of these can be found in the basalt sediment cores taken from the ocean floors and seafloor magnetic anomalies. We know that this has happened tens of thousands of times since the Earth's formation in Earth history. Okay, so this has happened tens of thousands of times. It happens all the time, and every time it has happened, they always see this decline in the field strength prior to it happening. The weakening of the Earth's magnetic field over the past 2,000 years that has been observed may indicate the onset of another magnetic field reversal. The last reversal of Earth's magnetic fields was about 788,000 years ago. That was the last time the Earth was opposite. According to Hawaiian lava, 700,000 years ago, our South Pole was magnetic. It did a sudden flip. According to lava samples, before that, they had seen that it had flipped every 200,000 years. And the last time now was 788,000 years ago. So they're saying we are way overdue for this to naturally occur again. And in simulated computer models, every time the field weakened, the poles flipped. Every time when they put these facts into the computer. Coincidentally, the last full-scale eruption of Yellowstone, the supervolcano, was 640,000 years ago. And it has been actually, the floor of Yellowstone has been increasing, expanding about 3 inches a year between 2004 and 2008. It has been like swelling, which was more than 3 times greater than it has ever been observed since they first started measuring it in 1923. That was 3 times more than they've ever seen it happen, and this was all happening since 2004. In January 2010, the USGS stated that Yellowstone had slowed significantly, however, but the uplift continues, but now it's at a slower pace since 2010. So, what could be causing these things? And the scenario is also supported by observations of the solar magnetic field, which also regularly flips spontaneously every 7 to 15 years. The sun's magnetic field also flips constantly, but differing than the Earth, where ours flips when it starts weakening, the sun's increases. Their magnetic field, its magnetic field increases, and that's what precedes the flip for the sun. It's the opposite. Okay, so at present, the overall geomagnetic field is becoming weaker. The Earth's magnetic field is the weakest it's been in 2,000 years. So it was at a peak. When they started recording time, my son actually made this chart here from a movie we saw about the Ring of Fire or something. And it had peaked here in 2000. In the year 0. In the year 0, it was at its peak, and it had been like going like this, but it had actually peaked higher than it had ever been. This is the Earth's magnetic field, and then now it's actually drastically reduced since then. The Ring of Fire is 3 times more active than ever before in the last 2,000 years as well. So. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to be geophysicists. Why is the Ring of Fire getting more active, 3 times more than it's ever been in the last 2,000 years? Why is the Earth's magnetic field at its weakest it's ever been in the last 2,000 years? What are you thinking? And I've told you that Earth is made out of the iron core, that its motion is what causes this. What could be making the magnetic field of the Earth decrease while at the same time the Ring of Fire is increasing? And if you don't know what the Ring of Fire is, that is what this map is. Okay, so the ring of fire is the area between, over here. This is an actual map that they used from the Geological Survey, U.S. Geological Survey. This shows the activity of volcanoes, all lining here. This is the ring of fire. It goes between North America and China and Australia.
Australia.
Oh, is that Australia?
Yeah.
Okay, Australia. Yeah, they call this the ring of fire. It lines up with a tectonic plate. So it is 3 times more active, meaning volcanoes are going off at rates 3 times more than they've ever done in 2,000 years. And as I said, the Earth's magnetic field. So think about that logically. The Earth's magnetic field is reducing, which means the Earth is spinning slower. And that is causing volcanoes to erupt as it's slowing down and it's spinning. And this has always happened in the past. They've shown that iridium from volcanoes was present in times like when the dinosaurs disappeared. And it's always related to heavy volcanic activity. This present strong deterioration corresponds to a 10 to 15% decline over the last 150 years and 35% since 2,000 years ago. And in South Africa, there already is a big area of reverse magnetic fields, because what's happening is it's like coming apart in patches. It's not like the whole thing moves together as a solid mass and the north goes down into the south. Patches of it show up on like geothermal type maps, and they show where the magnetism has changed positions, and that's why you see the northern lights now in lower states like Texas and in South Africa there's a huge field that is now north magnetic type pole. Okay, so global warming is not just happening on Earth, it is happening on all the planets in our solar system that are all showing signs of an energetic increase. It's not just an Earth problem that they're trying to make it be about, driving cars and things like that. This is happening on all the planets in our solar system. When there's an energetic increase and increased frequency equals heat, and that's what's heating things up. Which, see, this is the, I'm just going to open this door a little. Does it feel like it's getting hotter in here? Heat,
Yeah.
see, I was just talking about.
Put that fan on if you need to.
Okay, so this is evidence, is what I'm saying, that we have entered into a different band in the atmosphere, the photon belt. The fact that all the planets in the solar system are increasing in their heat and energetic frequencies. And our sun, as well as the Earth, is also losing its magnetic field as the Earth is slowing in its rotation. In a pole shift, the Earth starts also spinning in the opposite direction, according to the Egyptians. When the inner core of the Earth turns upside down, that will start the Earth rotating the other way around. And I'm not saying that I think this is going to happen, this is what they've been predicting was going to happen, but I actually think this might not happen. I'm just showing that it did have an effect though. When the Earth crossed into the photon belt, this is what happened to it. But I think we're going to be okay. I think it's going to adjust and adapt. That's my personal opinion. I don't think we're going to, but it did start, the swelling started, the ring of fire started, but I think it's going to just hang in there and it's not going to have this, even though historically it does happen, that's just my personal opinion. And again, how do we compare to this? Is our blood cells also contain iron at their center? And as far as a magnetic cosmic energy, that's what actually enzymes are. Enzymes, this is a quote from Dr. Norman Walker. He's the one who had the first juice machine, invented the Norwalk juicer. He says, enzymes are not substances, but are actually an intangible magnetic cosmic energy of life principle, not a substance, which is intimately involved in the action and activity of every atom in the human body, in vegetation and in every form of life. It is actually, enzymes are actually a magnetic cosmic energy. as far as biomagnetism goes, now we're talking biomagnets. Animals, including birds and turtles, can detect the Earth's magnetic field and use the field to navigate during migration. Cows and wild deer tend to align their bodies north-south while relaxing. Have you ever heard that? If you look at cow fields, they're supposedly all lined up north-south when they're just standing there. Has everyone heard that? Check that out next time. They align themselves to the north-south polarity when they're relaxing. And deer, wild deer, they say. But not when the animals are under high voltage power lines. So,
Oh, really?
yes. So the animals use this magnetism. We all know the birds, you know, hitting buildings. That was partly in the movie too, that they were all thrown off course. We did have a lot of birds die. It just fell out of the sky, but I think that was something else. In Arkansas, did you remember that article like 2 years ago? Okay, so how do crop circles fit into this? So those are just the facts. I can't give you the conclusion. My conclusion was that I think we're going to, I mean, it does historically happen, but I just don't think this is going to be the thing that causes it. Does anyone else have an opinion on that before we move on? And there's a tie to this with these other subjects. Anybody want to comment about the Earth's magnetic field decreasing? Okay. So, crop circles match the Earth's magnetic field. Underneath them, they have found with only a 5-degree shift from them. Everywhere there's a crop circle, is the Earth's magnetic field is underneath the crop circle. If you've ever seen a video footage of a crop circle being created, they're created in like 10 seconds. It's this little silver football-shaped object that just buzzes over the whole thing and just turns the grass into these incredibly complex patterns. Like rubbing a magnet. Have you ever rubbed a magnet in front of a TV? And all the pixels, you know, the colored pixels, they'll all follow that magnet. You will ruin your TV if you do that. Have you heard of this?
I haven't tried that.
Yes, all the colors will like zoom into one claw, and it won't be. You can't spread them back out. I mean, you can try. You can like wave it across, but same thing happens with the crop circles. The plants are actually molecularly changed, and the energy that it's doing it is making this loud buzzing sound, and it also causes static electricity on your hair to stand up when the crop circles are being made by this little football thing. And there's a movie, you can watch this on TV, or on a video. It's called probably Crop Circles. Crop circles mostly have a ratio in their pattern that matches the number pi. And they say that 80% of the crop circles are hoaxes that were intentionally done so that people wouldn't believe any of them, but 20% are valid and genuine. But 80% were just people trying to make it themselves. Most of the real crop circles occur where the other formations are, like Stonehenge and the older stone circle, which is in Scotland, England, which is 41 by 41 by 41 mile equilateral triangle. There's an equilateral triangle in Scotland, England. Okay, so now I'm going to read to you what is a divine message about these crop circles and how what the meaning of them are. And this was okay, so I'm just going to read this to you. As strange as this may sound, take it as you will. So as part of the 11-11-11, in 2011, a crystalline structure was anchored throughout all the human beings on this planet. This crystalline structure came in at this time because we have to transform. We have to upgrade our energies to align to the dimensional shifts that are happening on the planet right now, and a lot has to do with having crystal structures, which I will get into. The crystalline structure that is through all of us is allowing us to transform and become more electrical in energy. That will allow us to move with changing dimensional energies, which this photon belt is bringing. This crystalline structure is actually anchored in the brain, and as it's activated, it will open up a telepathic center of the brain and bring us back to a reactivation of our abilities to telepathically communicate and commune with each other and with the all-wise force in the universe. Another part that's crystalline in structure is the thyroid. Another part is going into the heart, and we're going to be activating the crystalline structure in the heart, which will create a new electrical energy there and will open us up as a receiving station. And there's one in the spine as well, where it is in the spinal fluid. So the crop circles are coming into their full energy for the very first time. For the very first time, their full purpose for being here on Earth is about to occur. They hold a multidimensional energy on the Earth plane, and their energetic purpose is to align all the megalithic sites around the Earth, such as Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, and all the sacred sites. That is the purpose of the crop circles, is to align these other sacred sites. They are bringing, the crop circles are bringing the megalithic sites back to their original pure sacred form that they held when they first came onto the Earth plane. So in other words, an energetic webbing is going out across the Earth plane, created as these lines of energy running from the crop circles to all the megalithic sites start to open up. And if you remember, I said the crop circles are always formed near these Stonehenge and the pyramids and things like that. The full purpose of the crop circles is to hold the blueprint energies for all human beings on this Earth plane in readiness for 12-12-12, which was a few weeks ago. What they were saying happened on that date was an illumination like nothing that has ever come onto this planet before now, which was energetic illumination waves designed to awaken people into their real true frequency of light. They say that we're going to be youthing and living a lot longer than anyone has ever lived before as human beings here, with the activation of these crystalline structures that are in every human now, but they're not all activated by any means. So at 11-11-11, that was the big turning point when they anchored it in, but now as of 12-12-12 is when they're starting the activation process of these crystalline structures, and everybody is going to be different. It is not going to be everybody at the same time. The key now is that this is the time through conscious choice to witness drama, third dimensional drama, but not become a part of it. And I'm going to get into that later as well in 3 more subjects. So a lot of people will just go on as usual because they're not going to transform for a while, but they still will have this crystalline structure within them. They just won't be activating it at this time. So that's how the crop circles are working now. They're connecting the Earth itself. We are mirroring whatever's happening in the Earth. The Earth is mirroring what's happening in the solar system. We're having this crystalline grid system activated in us at the same time the Earth is having it activated on her. So when they say, you know, were these megalithic sites ever connected to an energy grid in the past that has since eroded over time, or will this be the first time this was ever connected? And they're saying this is the very first time. They have never been activated before, and it was always meant that this would happen at this time to bring in this new dawning era that we are in the middle of now. And the connection between the crop circles and the sites rose to its fullest level on 12-12-12 as the illumination waves started to arrive. Something the planet has never experienced before. These energetic lines are going to create shifts on the Earth where they need to take place. There's pockets of energy on the Earth right now holding dense congestion that really needs to be aligned. And they're saying the soil of the Earth really needs a true regeneration because this is just so much congestion of chemicals and pollution in the soil of the Earth. And to the Earth, they say we're just like fleas on a dog, and the Earth really just wants to shake most people off if they are not in frequency with the Earth. The flooding that's happening is a lot of cleansing of the soil and removing a lot of the toxins and the pesticides, but without as little damage as possible to masses of people. So they're saying that there will be some people leaving the planet, but these are the people who aren't ready for peace. They aren't ready to move out of drama. They're into the violence and power and control, and not in a small way. These people will be leaving the planet because they don't belong here anymore. They will take a step off the planet and have another experience, but they won't be staying here, and that's what they're saying. That's just how it's supposed to be. So that's how the crop circles and the megalithic sites have to do with this. There's a guy, Greg Braden. Has anyone heard of him? Okay, Greg Braden has been traveling currently around the United States and in the media telling of the scientific proof of the Earth passing through the photon belt and the slowing of the Earth's rotation. And at the same time as the slowing of the Earth's rotation, there is an increase in the resonant frequency of the Earth's pulse, which is called the Schumann resonance. And he was making a very big deal about this 20 years ago, or even longer. When the Earth stops its rotation and the resonance frequency reaches 13 cycles per second, we will be at what he's calling 0-point magnetic field. Where, if this happens, the Earth will be stopped, and in 2 or 3 days it will start turning again in the opposite direction. This will produce a reversal in the magnetic fields around the Earth and so forth. So this Schumann resonance, I just want to just talk a little bit about that, which is what they're calling the heartbeat of the Earth. It's the electrical frequency. See, before we were talking about the magnetic force field of the Earth, now we're talking about the electrical current on the surface of the Earth. The Schumann resonance is a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field spectrum. And they first started documenting this, Nikola Tesla, actually, in Colorado Springs in 1899, was the first person who became aware that there was an electrical field that could be measured. So in 1899, he was the first one that actually said that the Earth had electrical properties, and that's where he came up with his idea for wireless energy transmission, where he put all those light bulbs in the ground on Pikes Peak. And he estimated, based on his experiments, that the frequency of the Earth was approximately 8 hertz in 1899. But in the 1950s, the researchers confirmed that the resonant frequency of the Earth was actually 7.83, so he was extremely close. And this was a physicist named Winifred Otto Schumann, who predicted it mathematically in 1952. So that's why it was named after him, called the Schumann resonance. And this has been thought to be a constant number, 7.83 cycles per second. It's thought to be so constant that the global military communications actually developed on this frequency. They say that it was that way for thousands of years. It was the same frequency forever. So they just thought that was the frequency of the Earth. It's never changing. This is the electrical circuitry on the surface. Recent reports, however, since 2011, are saying that it's now over 11 cycles per second and climbing. Science doesn't know why or what to make of it. So, believe it or not, the Earth behaves like an enormous electric circuit. The Schumann resonances are quasi-standing electromagnetic waves that exist in the cavity between the Earth's surface and the clouds above it. And it's something that has to be excited. It's not present all the time. It has to be like excited to be observed, which only happens from lightning strikes. Lightning strikes are what excite this, and that's when they measure it. And they say there's about 1,000 lightning storms at any given moment worldwide, and it travels around the Earth, and that's where they're getting this number from. So in the normal mode, the fundamental mode is a standing wave in the Earth ionosphere cavity with a wavelength equal to the circumference of the Earth. The lowest frequency occurs at 7.83, but this frequency can vary, and that comprises up to the upper wall of this. There's a closed cavity where this occurs. Okay. So the basic theory is that lightning discharges are considered to be the primary natural source of this Schumann resonance excitation. Lightning channels behave like huge antennas that radiate electromagnetic energy. They're very weak at large distances from the lightning source, but because of the Earth ionosphere waveguide, it behaves like a resonator at extremely low frequencies and amplifies the spectral signals from lightning at the resonance frequencies. See, I told you this was going to be really science-oriented, but it's still just one class worth. Okay, so just think of 8th graders. This is just one day in their life, 1 hour. All right, so higher temperatures produce more lightning strikes, and lower temperatures depress lightning strikes. And again, I'm giving you the facts so you can try to figure out what they do not know. Why is this Schumann resonance increasing when it has been the same for thousands of years? Lightning discharges occurring anywhere in the world produce electromagnetic pulses that spread away from the source. And there's a formula for this. They take the speed of light, which they estimate at about 300,000 kilometers per second, and one cycle is the circumference of the Earth, as I said, the wavelength, which is about 40,000 kilometers per cycle. This is the fundamental frequency that should be the constant. If you divide 300,000 kilometers per second over the 40,000 kilometers per cycle of the circumference of the Earth, it gives you a number of 7.5 cycles per second. So that's just the fundamental frequency equation. The speed of light divided by the circumference of the Earth gives you the Schumann resonance. Okay, everybody with me? And then the military was like, okay, you know, we can use that to make all our calculations off of. So long as the properties of Earth's electromagnetic cavity remains about the same, these frequencies remain the same. So what is changing it? Why is it increasing suddenly? Just since the 1980s, it has been increasing. Things that could change this frequency are things like the strength and configuration of the Earth's magnetic field, which has been weakening for the past 2,000 years, which my guess is, does that mean there's less resistance with a weakening magnetic field? I don't know. The scientists aren't saying this. That's just what I'm trying to figure out. The composition and properties of the atmosphere could have something to do with it, they're saying. The location and properties of the ionosphere, which is linked to the magnetosphere. Or is it related to the solar sunspot cycle, which solar flares were supposed to have peaked in 2012, and also electromagnetic properties of the Earth. So if you look at the interior of the Earth, you see that there is a differential physical rotation of the solid inner core with respect to the surface of the Earth. It takes about 400 years for the inner core to make a complete revolution inside the Earth, so that its frequency is only one cycle per 400 years. So that can't be what is affecting it. It is more interesting to look at the frequency of currents at the boundary between the solid inner core and the liquid outer core. So they're saying, which the inner core has a radius of about 1,200 kilometers and a circumference of 7,500 kilometers. And I know these numbers are just, you know, it's just so much detail that you really have to be really scientific, but I'm just presenting, there's just no way to get around these numbers. So if you made that into the equation, that would be 7,500 kilometer circumference of the inner core divided by the speed of light, 300,000 kilometers per second, or 1/40th of a second. In other words, the natural frequency of the Earth at the boundary of the inner core is about 40 cycles per second, which is at the upper end of the range of frequencies measured for the Schumann resonances. It goes from 7.8, in other words, it could be 14, 20, 26, 33, 39, and up to 45 hertz. So they're saying if you use the inner core as the reason for its increase, that could be up to 40 cycles per second. So they're saying, therefore, the Schumann resonance frequencies correspond to the range of natural frequencies of the Earth from its surface to the boundary of its solid inner core. They're saying the reason it's changing is something inside the Earth. Okay, but again, as I'm saying, is that the photon belt is electromagnetic, made of light particles vibrating at an increased frequency. Electricity and magnetism are two sides of the same coin. Electromagnetic waves are exactly the same as the speed of light. Light itself is an electromagnetic wave. Did everyone know that? That electromagnetic waves are the speed of light? So again, the photon belt is electromagnetic waves. So for some reason, the Schumann resonance frequency, which has never changed, is increasing. What they predicted during and after the changes of the photon belt before 2012, when they were speculating what effect could this have on the Earth, and they predicted that it would have a collapse of the planet's electrical and magnetic fields, and that all the atoms on the Earth would be changed, going into an increased frequency, that it would provide a new energy source, getting people off of the old fossil fuel dependency. They were saying that it would allow the capability for space travel, since photon drive technology is what they say all starships are powered by. And then photon beam powered ships can travel in space. Incredible psychic abilities are reclaimed, telepathy, telekinesis, etc. We will now be living in a different time period where we have different levels of abilities. And what is causing that, they're saying? So, at a cellular level, our bodies are also responding to this electromagnetic pulse. The ancients called this the sacred circuit. The cells receive this pulse from the brain, which receives its pulse from the heart, which receives its pulse from the earth. The earth gets this pulse from our solar system, which comes from our galaxy, and ultimately from our entire universe. We all share a pulse, literally, with all of existence. And they have proven this scientifically, that as the Earth's resonance is speeding up, so are things in our body, which I will get into now. So, as I was saying, let me just sum this up. The Earth has a vibrational frequency that is known as the Schumann resonance, that has held steady at 7.83 hertz since at least the turn of the last century, when it was first measured, and the military bases its global communication because they considered it to be constant. Since 1987, which was the year that, with the photon belt, the Earth first started clipping into it for 2 weeks, calling it the harmonic convergence. That is when it first started increasing. The first year that we actually clipped into the photon belt was the first year this harmonic frequency started increasing, so that by 1996, it had actually increased to 9 cycles per second. And in the photon belt, the sun crossed the plane of it in 1998 completely and has been in it ever since. But we rotate around the sun, so we were in it 6 months at that point and out of it 6 months. But when the Earth crossed the plane, the harmonic convergence time period, that's when the Earth's frequency increased to 9 cycles per second. This frequency has been speeding up in line with our concept of time, so much so that the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which assists the world in maintaining a uniform system of time, has been having to make unexpected adjustments to their atomic clocks to compensate for this sudden change in time. And they're saying that time has actually, in one 24-hour day, is now a 16-hour day. They've had to reduce time so drastically ever since the pulse of the Earth has increased, the Schumann resonance. We've actually lost 8 hours of our day. But we still do the same amount of stuff, so that's why everyone doesn't feel like they have enough time and they feel like they can't get anything done. We've actually lost 8 hours of our day, but our clocks do the same thing. They still look the same to us. By the beginning of 2011, just before the year we were actually going to be fully in the photon belt as the Earth ourselves, the Schumann resonance had now moved beyond 11 hertz from its constant of 7.83. As the Schumann resonance increases, our own frequencies must also increase. We are just so connected that everything that is affecting the Earth is affecting us. This is the principle of resonance. As our vibrational frequency speeds up, so will our concept of time. There will be more events taking place in less time. Time will appear to speed up as we approach 0 point, is what they're calling it. And it's almost at 12 cycles per second. Once it gets to 13 cycles, they're saying it stops. That's when the poles flip, I guess, when we reach 0 point, if it gets to 13. So when we measure a solid geometric shape, its height, length, and width determine its spatial dimensions. Everything in the physical third dimension can be described mathematically using 3 numbers. But there is also a 4th dimension, which is time. the fourth dimension is time, which we have not been in. And all time travel that they have ever done, which the military has done, if you've heard of the Philadelphia experiment and different things like that, has to do with magnetism. Every time they've done time travel, it has been magnetism fixed and related. The parameter of time is an indication of measure. As per the theory of relativity from Einstein, time is perceived to pass more slowly when you move faster. But, like height, width, and depth, which define the perception of 3D, it is only a perception. You are not moving through time and space. Time and space move through you. And at the speed of light itself, length shrinks to 0, which means there's no more space when you're traveling at the speed of light. You lose the dimension of space, and time itself stands still when you're traveling at the speed of light. If you travel faster than the speed of light, you actually reverse aging. And if you've ever taken physics at any time in your life, that's one of the examples they always tell you about, is the two twins. You know, one took off in the rocket ship traveling at the speed of light and the other stayed on Earth. Have you heard of this? The one who stayed on Earth, the other one came back like 30 years later and had not aged at all, whereas their twin was now 30 years older. And this is supposedly, I don't know if that's a real thing they did, but that's what they're saying. I think, does anyone know, was that real?
That's one of Einstein's theories.
Right, so gravity is a warp in space-time. This is Einstein as well. Space and time is flat without matter. If there's no matter in it, space and time is just flat. It's the enormous weight and the mass of a star or a planet that causes a huge dent in space, and that means, so picture like that black space as a blanket. If you put, when there's nothing in it, it's just flat and tight. When you put a heavy planet in the middle of it, it causes a warp in there. And it's that warp that actually creates any planet spinning around it is like sucked into that warp. And that's what he's saying is gravity. It's just that the warp is what's pulling the planets close to it. It's not that it's flat, it actually makes a warp or a dent in space-time. Just as a tuning fork has natural frequencies for sound, the planet Earth has natural frequencies called Schumann resonances for electromagnetic radiation. The human brain also has natural frequencies for electromagnetic radiation. It turns out that the Earth's Schumann resonances are in tune with the human brain's alpha states and theta states. Schumann resonance can alter brainwave activity in humans. Alpha occurs at a frequency range of approximately 8 to 13 hertz. Theta is anywhere from 4 to 7. Delta has a frequency of 1 to 3. It's at the lower end. And beta is at the higher end of 18 to 22. So these four brainwaves fall within the range of at least the first 3 Schumann resonances. On the other hand, if we were located at a place where these vibrations were amplified, then it is possible they could interact and influence brainwave activity as well. And alpha frequencies are the ones that most people associate with meditation and relaxation, and they play this music to make themselves relax, the alpha frequency. And theta frequencies have been associated with a dreamy, creative state of mind. So are we the controllers of our reality? We easily forget that we are, and that our reality is not made up of outside influences, but that it actually consists of our thoughts, beliefs, and mindsets. So by learning about these deeper states of consciousness, you could do this by understanding your different brain frequencies. Beta, which is the 14 to 40 hertz, is the waking consciousness and the reasoning wave. It's associated with normal waking consciousness, a heightened state of alertness, logic, and critical reasoning. While beta waves are important for effective functioning throughout the day, they can also translate, if you're not in charge of your world, into stress, anxiety, and restlessness. If they're too high of a frequency, instead of making you more logical and alert, they could cause you stress and anxiety. So, and that actually is the reason a lot of people have health problems in that state. Alpha, the 7.5 to 14, is the deep relaxation, usually when the eyes are closed and you're slipping into a lovely daydream like now, or during light meditation. It's optimal time to program the mind for success and also heightens your imagination, visualization, memory, learning, and concentration in the alpha relaxation wave, which is what they're saying the Schumann resonance is of the planet normally. If you were healthy and normal, you would be resonating in that perfect healthy state with the planet, if the planet was healthy and normal. Now they've been increasing. These resonances have been increasing. We have a direct tie to what's happening on the planet. So the fastest frequency is above 40 hertz. And this could be, they're saying, associated with people who aren't handling it well with ADHD and hyperactivity and things like that. All right, so we know now that the Schumann resonance is intimately linked with the brain and our brain waves. Same thing. Liquid crystals in DNA, brain ventricles, and cellular structures in the human body may operate as antenna for detecting and decoding such global and local ELF signals, which are the extreme low frequency signals. Liquid crystals in the brain are actually antenna for this. And what they are finding now is that the magnetoreception is mediated by the pineal gland. And the pineal gland actually is becoming crystallized. And 30% of its cells are magnetically sensitive and containing magnetite containing tissues, which the pineal gland in every living tissue is regulated by the master molecule, the DNA. So when there is a sudden decrease in geomagnetic activity, as is what is happening now, there appears to be an enhancement of processes that facilitate PSI reception, especially telepathy and clairvoyance. Increases in geomagnetic activity may suppress pineal melatonin levels, which the pineal gland secretes, and contribute to reductions of cortical seizure thresholds. Brain waves, as I said, can be transmitted along this perineural system. So in these base frequencies can reactivate stalled healing processes if they're in tune with that healthy state, enhance growth, accelerate immune responses, and generally jumpstart functions inherent to the body's tissue by rebalancing its energies and reconfiguring the liquid crystal orientation of cell membrane components, thus triggering specific intracellular responses. So this is how I'm saying that people are going to be starting to heal on the planet, is being in tune with these resonances. And this is so incredibly scientific, but like I said, I just have to say it. We are proposing that the Schumann resonance may be the substrate for a radar-type extrasensory perception mechanism common to all living beings, ESP. These liquid crystals are responsible for this, and the earth itself has these crystalline structures too. We are the same. We are made of the same materials. Everything about us is the same. We match the earth's pulse, we match its magnetism. Everything the earth does, we do. If you're not in line with the frequency of the earth, however, I'm going to get to that, but then you will not be going where the earth is going. So, all right, so we'll just leave that there. Later research confirmed a relationship to human health and well-being, and even to ESP, as I said, with these. All right, so now we're going to get to, and there's so much more detail about that if you did need evidence and scientific studies and all this. The brain is basically a massive source of extreme low frequency signals that get transmitted throughout the body through the nervous system, which is sensitive to magnetic fields. Brain waves and natural biorhythms can be entrained by strong external ELF signals such as stationary waves at Schumann's resonances. So just to sum up where we are right now, what I'm saying is, how did the photon belt affect things? It's an electromagnetic wave. So far we know that the Earth's magnetic force field has decreased. Lowest it's been in 2,000 years. They don't know why. We know that the Ring of Fire is 3 times more active than it's been in 2,000 years. Again, they don't know why. This Schumann resonance, which has always been constant, 7.83, so constant the military use it as their constant way to set things up in the military with, excuse me a second, what were you saying?
We have 10 minutes left on the battery.
Okay. So that has changed just since 1986, which coincides with the year that they say the Earth went into the, first clipped into the photon belt. And then suddenly now it went to 9, last year it went to 11, it's on its way to 12. This just happened in the last 30 years when it had never changed before. What's causing the increase in electrical impulses on the surface of the Earth? That's what the Schumann resonance is, which is directly affecting our brain waves. We are tied to the pulse of the Earth. What's happening there is happening inside us. And as I was saying with the alpha, beta, theta, depending on that frequency, that's the state of mind you're in. The alpha waves can heal you, calm you, keep you in a relaxed state of mind. Different higher frequencies can cause stress and anxiety and depression and ADHD if you're not able to handle them. And they have these CDs where you can just play that frequency music all the time in the background to put your brain in that state of mind. Okay, so the pineal gland, which is a neural signal, but it sends out an endocrine output, which is melatonin. But it actually is part of the nervous system. They're saying that it's becoming crystalline. It's becoming a crystal. Scientists know this. They're calling it biomineralization. They're saying, why is the pineal gland having so much calcium calcifying around it? And they're blaming it on fluoride, where fluoride levels are found the highest in the body in the pineal gland. But what these other invisible realm people are saying is that that's what our scientists think is happening, but that's not what's happening. It's actually becoming crystallized, which will result in new forms of telepathic communication because it acts as an antenna in our pineal gland, in the brain, to pick up these new frequencies. If it's activated fully, which everybody now has this crystalline structure, they're saying as of 11/11/11, everybody has this now, and scientists have proved this. I have 2 studies showing this. But not everybody's going to be activated at the same time. But as you get activated, you will become telepathic. You will be able to do teletransportation, time travel, multidimensional awareness, and control the physical aging process. This is our next step in the evolution. And through this very convoluted, detailed, scientific way, I'm trying to prove to you how everything is connected and that it is actually affecting the human body. And they scientifically can prove these crystals are forming in the pineal gland. They've been lying dormant, waiting to be activated. Medical science is now starting to see them, and you can actually look at pictures of these crystals forming in the pineal gland. So, how can you activate these crystals and use them? Crystals are living. The Earth is living. And crystals are actually the highest vibrational level of the mineral kingdom. That's why people wear these quartz and things like that. They're the purest form of minerals vibrating at the highest frequency. And they say the crystals are the pineal gland of the Earth. Everywhere there's crystals in the Earth, that's the pineal gland of the Earth. Okay, so. And as I said, there's calcium deposits they're finding. They think it's related to the fluoride. Even cell phones, they said, was causing tumors in people, but now they're saying that we've actually adjusted to the cell phones and that's not going to be so much of a problem anymore. But initially we weren't adjusted to that frequency and it was causing tumors. And as your body adjusts, you go through changes where, you can have joint pains or dizziness or anything adjusting to the new frequencies, and it's temporary. All right, so it's a new antenna. I'm just going to skip along here and tell you that in order to actually, all this is scientific mumbo jumbo that you so far have had nothing to do with and no control over. What you do have control over is what they're saying is the planet Earth is going to be splitting, not right away. It won't be a physical split, but people are going to be of different frequencies. And what'll happen is people who are not in the right frequency with you will not be in your life. People will start dropping out of your life that are out of that type of new level of being. They'll still be on Earth. If you want to find them, you can still call them. They're still there, but they won't be in your world. And as far as violence and wars and deaths and weather patterns and things, they always say, well, is it happening to you in your world? And if it's not part of your world. There's going to be simultaneously two different levels of the Earth existing at the same time, but it will start eventually being a complete physical separation. And this is how it will begin, is relationships that what they're saying is relationships that aren't working for you, that you've been in for years, and they're just weighing you down, they're not getting anywhere, you're stuck on the wheel of karma with these people. It's time to forgive them, let them go, and move on. If you want to go into the higher frequency, that's how you do it. You start leaving these denser, lower levels of drama behind. It's your choice. If you want to stay in them, then you're stuck there. And they're saying get off of the wheel of karma by letting them go and forgiving them. And the way they say to do this is you actually say, thank you for giving me that experience. And that is how you forgive someone. You thank them for giving you that experience, and you move on. And I don't know about you, but this has definitely happened to me in this past month with several, they get so intense, it's clear that that's what was occurring. And it's your choice to let go and move on. You don't have to stay stuck. You're not going to be compatible with everybody in the future. And these people, they'll just not be in your world. And it's people are looking for, oh, okay, somebody's going to disappear, like in the rapture, one person will be working in a field, suddenly the person next to them will be gone, one person will be in their car, this is described in the Bible, suddenly someone next to them will disappear. It's a difference in frequency levels, and as that amplifies, it will become that way, where at a lower vibrating frequency you can't see who is vibrating higher. But this is happening gradually. Nothing is going to be extreme like that. It's all hourly, daily, gradually. You'll only maybe be able to see it month by month at best. You'll definitely be able to see it year by year. But as far as hourly, which it is happening hourly, even the crystals being activated, getting new abilities to clearly see what's going on in your life from a new perspective, a higher perspective, you'll be able to start being more coherent of things like that in maybe a daily, weekly level. But as far as the planet goes, all those disasters that are occurring, even with the conspiracy theories, they say, you can't take fear into this new level either. Fear will exist in the old Earth, they're calling it, and only love with the highest frequency level can go into the new Earth. So even choosing, if you're going to buy into the conspiracy fear, which that's a conspiracy in itself, keeping people so afraid of what is going to happen that they have to get all prepared for. They're saying that is a trick designed to keep you in that fear state, and fear physically cannot hold these higher vibrations. And actually that's a whole scientific thing about fear and love have wavelengths. Love is a shorter, more rapid frequency. Fear is slower and longer. Every time it touches a point, they've now scientifically proven emotions on DNA structures where we have 64 different codes, potential codes that are in our DNA based on the 4 elements of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and what's the other one? It begins with an S. that they should be making 64 different codes. Instead, we only have 20 that are active. And they're saying, why do we only have 20? And this is why, because fear, being a slow wavelength that's long, if these DNA codons, picture them as circles connected to each other, the long, slow wavelengths aren't touching every one of those, but love is shorter and faster. It can touch way more of those things and turn them on in our DNA. And they physically have scientifically proven now emotions actually are what are triggering the DNA to activate. So, things you don't use in your house or need in your house, you can also let those go. That will free you up to move on as well. Jobs that make you miserable, let go of those if it's time to actually get into your higher level, what your purpose is. And you will also need to forgive yourself for past mistakes. That's a big reason people are staying stuck. It's time to just shed that whole skin, is what they're saying. Just shed it. It is your choice. And this is the part you do have control over. So only the fear is for entertainment purposes only. It is an illusion. Billy Meyer. Has anyone heard of Billy Meyer? He was the one that the Pleiadians visited for years and years and years, and he took pictures of their ships. And these Pleiadians look just like humans. And they actually had this way of getting him into their ship, which was a beam of light that, they'd go by and try to pick him up through this beam of light. The beam of light, they said, was only able to take Pleiadians in it because it only could hold the frequency of love, which is what they're saying our future is. If he was fearful of anything or worried or anxious, it could not pick him up. It was a physical frequency that could not, and that's what they're saying. The difference between the new Earth frequency and the old Earth is it's not like a matter of being a good person or a bad person. It physically can't take your vibrations if you're not in a love, peaceful, harmonious state of mind. So in other words, you don't need to buy a gun, is what they're saying. You don't need to buy a gun. That's in someone else's world. It doesn't have to be in your world. And there's no more karma in the new Earth. That's why they're saying get off the wheel of karma. Forgive, move on, and let go. Don't keep interacting with it. If someone's having drama, let them have their drama. And the way to get off the wheel of karma is to not say anything back. And just let go and move on. Every time you answer back, you're staying on that wheel of karma. You're interacting. You say something that's going to make them cling to you in thought form. When you're not there, that's holding you. But if you don't say anything, there's nothing that can continue the relationship if you just walk away. Once you've moved on yourself. So that's a big thing, is holding your words. Okay, so that's where I'm going to end it. Anybody have any questions? And what we were going to do here tonight as a physical ceremony was to have you write down on paper things you really know aren't working for you. If it's your job, if you want to list specific things in your life, like your house or your car that are big, or you just want to say clutter in general, or specific relationships. This could be with family members, They're not necessarily designed to last forever if that person is choosing not to move up in frequency. This is all about frequencies. If they are not choosing to, they don't have to. It is their choice. But you can. And that might be hard for some people, but you can wish them well, pray for them, bless them with love, but no more interacting if it's just drama and misery for you. So that's just an example of something you can write. So we're going to write these on paper, and then we're going to put them in the fire. And this is going to end your 2012, because you physically have to do things, not necessarily by writing them on paper and putting them in the fire, but hopefully you will really do that. It will start that chain in your life. If you really want to separate and move up with the new Earth, there are things you have to actively do to make those choices.
And I just started the gratitude jar, so that would actually be the opposite of the fire.
Yes, actually, there you go.
And
Writing
you all
what
are
you're
welcome
thankful for
to
is a way
contribute to
of
that as well.
raising your thoughts and those alpha waves. See, this was all scientific about brain wavelengths and everything, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's scientific. It's not just you know, mumbo jumbo, oh, isn't the world lovely? All right, so who's ready to start preparing for their ascension? Like I said, I brought a pad.
Wait, first along your left.
I'm going to hand everybody a piece of paper. Sammy, why don't you go out and start the fire?
Should I end it?
Yes, I think.